So I've got 3 good reasons for using new Settlers Tums. First, they're fast and effective. That's because second, they come from Settlers. And third, they come in 3 fruit flavours, orange, lemon and cherry. And they don't taste chalky. All that, and they contain calcium too. Effective and fruit-flavoured new Settlers Tums.
What if one day you found yourself alone in a hostile environment, cold and hunted? Would you give in, or would you survive? Would you do the right things? Could you think fast enough? In short, could you act like a professional? Week by week, combat and survival will take you inside the world of the professional soldier. Part 1 is at your newsagent now. Combat and Survival. It's a loaded magazine.
All day, carting beer from pub to pub, and what do we get?
Water.
It's not even the Pennine water they use for brewing Webster's Yorkshire Bitter.
I can see it now. The rich chestnut glow.
With a head as white as a Yorkshire rose.
And that unsurpassable taste.
Right, lads. Have I got a treat for you?
Hey up.
No, just eat. Oh.
It's right tasty as Webster's.
Introducing the first cosmetic way to permanently color your hair. Color Story by Polly. You simply push, shake and shampoo in, all in one step. Now for the first time you can have natural color in a totally cosmetic way. Color Story.
Later this year on ITV, a new series of Heirloom. Once again, John Bly invites you to bring your antiques to the studio to be discussed and valued. If you'd like to take part, then send your name, address and telephone number, as well as a clear photograph of your heirloom to John Bly, Heirloom, Anglia Television, Norwich, NR1 3JG.
He's a grand chap, that John Bly. And here's a grand programme now, another in our special series of Bygones Specials.
British Rail are getting there, just about. As the trains become faster and cleaner and more pleasant to ride in, people are leaving the horrors of roadworks and pile-ups on the M1, the M4 and the M11 for a more relaxed journey by train. So many nowadays that the system can only just cope. Dotted about the old Norwich to London route until recently were marvellous old signal boxes with polished brass bells and levers that worked the points and the signals. But now it's all going. One of the oldest bits of equipment was the Trouse Swing Bridge. North of Ipswich Tunnel, the railway lines of Norwich were almost too easy to build. Dead straight lines for miles, lovely sections of flat countryside, no major obstacles at all. Except one. This one. The only way to get to the centre of Norwich from the south by a direct route was to cross the River Wensum. As this river was navigable and much used in Victorian times, it was necessary to devise a bridge which would open to permit the passage of river traffic. It was so difficult to build that the opening of the railway was delayed for 6 months until, in December 1845, Trowse Swing Bridge was at last completed. In 1905, the old swing bridge was turned into this electrically operated affair. In hot weather, the track and all the metal parts expanded, with the result that the bridge often jammed completely, unless the very important gaps were watched with great care and the whole thing nursed along at every stage. In short, it was a brute. Every opening and closing became an adventure towards the end. If the bridge jammed in the closed position, pleasure boats on the Winsome had their excursions ruined. If the bridge jammed in the open position, the services by train from Norwich could be disrupted for hours. Signals have been set at danger in both directions on the main line. The motor has been switched on, gears engaged, and the massive cogwheels swinging into action as a whole section of the line turns away to allow the ship to pass through. The Winsome pleasure launch Regal Lady taking an enthusiastic assembly of passengers on a tour of the waterways around Norwich, a view of the great wheels turning and the enormous swing bridge was something of a bonus. As the Regal Lady slips through the narrow gap between the bridge piers and the bridge span, waves are exchanged. Meanwhile, the British Rail gang pause before tackling the next part of the story. Will the bridge close smoothly when the nautical parade has gone on its merry way? Maneuvering the bridge back into position was the vital moment. Very slowly, the basic track of the main line was carefully lined up with the section of the track on the bridge platform. And with a final deft movement, it was ready for the permanent way gang to close up the rails and make them safe for a 400-ton train to pass over. Well, that's how it should have been if things were going your way. Levers in the engine room had to be worked like the gears on a car when driving on an icy road. Experienced travellers would crane their necks out of the carriage windows, watching for the telltale signs, the signals, and their position on either side of the river, and that special clonk-clonk of the wheels of the train over the often too expanded vital gap. This is the modified Trowse Swing Bridge in 1905. In 1862, most of the smaller railway companies in East Anglia were amalgamated to form the Great Eastern Railway. They gradually got a grip on things, including authority from Parliament to raise £3 million and to build the great new busy Liverpool Street Station, which opened in 1874. Locomotives were improving all the time. The Great Eastern route to Norwich saw some fine engines in action, right up to the end of steam. The famous Britannia class, which in their day was as good as any diesel. In 1883, Harwich was opened as a major link with Northern Europe. In 1886, the present Norwich Thorpe station was completed, still happily with us, much as it was in Victorian times. At the same time, there was a vast development of the suburban steam services from Liverpool Street, including 23 trains a day from Enfield and Edmonton to the city at the amazing price of twopence return. By the time the London and North Eastern Railway took over in 1923, Liverpool Street had the most intensive steam suburban service in the world, known in the 1920s as the Jazz trains. The one thing the old Great Eastern desperately lacked was electrification. It was first proposed back in 1935, and it wasn't until 1948 that the first portion of electrification reached Shenfield, followed by Chelmsford in 1956, and finally to Ipswich in 1985. For quite a while now, the diesel trains from Norwich have been terminating at Ipswich and handing over to electric for the rest of the run to London. The original East Region electric system was operated on a rather old-fashioned system at 1500 volts DC, but after a series of tests, it was decided to go for the more usual high-voltage system, working at 25,000 volts AC. This very high voltage is great in open country, but it offers certain problems, especially in tunnels, like this one at Ipswich, which was always very wet and had to be completely relined, and the roof raised in places to make it safe to use the high-voltage electric wires. But gradually, all these problems were overcome. Electrification certainly brought a cleaner and slicker appearance to the whole service on the Eastern region to and from London.
Thanks very much.
The times were cut down from a one-time 4.5 hours to well under 2 hours for the best trains. And so the passenger traffic on the line increased as people found the comfort and speed of the new services to their liking. The electrification had still not reached Norwich, and the reason, that old bogey, the Trouss Swing Bridge. There was only one solution, a new bridge. Work started in 1984. Some proposals were put forward as to how the 25,000 volt supply could be cut off while the trains went over the bridge, but there were too many problems. The old massive Thorpe Station signal box had to go. A new signalling system had to be installed. The old signal levers and bells and blocking instruments, as they're called, are these days carefully removed instead of just being junked as once happened. They are now prize exhibits for collectors and museums, many of them ending up at the Special British Rail Centre at Collector's Corner. Now a start has begun on the replacement bridge. It was decided to build it alongside the old one in order to minimize the disruption to services and also to secure a better foundation for the main columns than the old site provided. The new site, although virtually alongside the old bridge, will marginally smooth out a curve on the approach from the south, which will serve to increase the approach speed. As the old signal boxes, with their highly polished brass bells, stiff levers, and the semaphore signals they controlled, were being phased out, an extremely modern and sophisticated control room replaced them at Colchester.
Train now arrived at platform 1.
The 1146 for St Wattles. 1146 St Wattles.
From here, overall control can be maintained for a distance of more than 50 miles around, including Trouse Swing Bridge. Large illuminated diagrams show the position of all the trains moving in the entire area. Fingertip buttons activate a whole range of signal adjustments. Television cameras are installed at the level crossings and at some of the stations so that the control room staff can overlook as many of the day-to-day operations as possible. The television cameras here are monitoring a vital crossing at Manningtree, which carries a lot of road traffic from Harwich Docks. The Great Eastern pioneered some of these techniques. The first all-electric signal box was set up at Bishopsgate Goods Yard as far back as 1899. Overhead electric railways need clean, smooth, specially shaped bridges. Some on the Norwich line needed rebuilding. Midnight, near Norwich, and a special electrification works train is moving into place. Passenger services have ceased. The catenary is being set up on the last section from London to Norwich. The cable is run out and attached to the overhead system by a team of experts who sometimes wire up and string out the wires as the train moves slowly underneath them. However, this has to stop when joins have been made, as they require special attention. The overhead system must be at the right tension. Too slack, and the catenary and the pantograph will be thrown about as the trains race along. Too tight, and the pantograph may cause the overhead to break, with disastrous consequences to it and all the trains following behind.
Yeah, we'll propel back underneath in a second.
In the old days, they used the third rail system, the sort used on the vast South London suburban network, plus the main lines to Brighton, Eastbourne, Southampton and Bournemouth. The only trouble with this system is that the current rail suffers seriously in bad weather. The night goes all too quickly, and the work must pause while the service trains move into position. The electrification plan is right on schedule. Now the line is being tidied up, ready for the normal diesel passenger service to begin. It was during the weekend of the 14th and 15th of February 1987 that the transfer from the old to the new bridge was organised. Two operations were planned to take place simultaneously, the dismantling of the old bridge and the opening of the new. Now the various parts of the new bridge were being brought together as a unit. At the same time, the new control box was to take over as soon as the new bridge was in place. In the meantime, Norwich Thorpe Station is closed for the weekend. For this operation, the services to and from Norwich had to terminate at Diss. As is customary with all workings of this kind, the railway has a statutory duty to maintain a service, even when something as drastic as replacing a very old bridge is involved. A special bus service was laid on to take passengers and their luggage from Diss to Norwich. As the weather wasn't too bad, and the coach ride from Diss to Norwich is pleasant, many of the weekend passengers treat this sort of thing as a bonus. This is how it was done on the site. First, the old ballast and track were removed. Then new sections of track were swung into position on the new bridge area. Manhandling is still the best and most accurate technique with short sections of track. Minor adjustments must be made and sections of track cut down to the final requirements, a process which again can really only be done on the site itself. Today, machines come into their own for the once laborious process of aligning track and sleepers into their final position, ready to receive the additional ballast. At the same time, another team is completing the work on the electric track circuits, the control boxes alongside the track, and the operation of the signals. Remember, the signalling must be made to work and be maintained from a control room 50 miles away. The modern continuous welded rail needs a fine adjustment in the last stages of installation. Even an on-the-spot steel foundry may be the only way of getting this bit of the process just right. Judging the temperature of hot metal, pouring it precisely, removing the excess, all this needs quite a deft touch.
That's the weld joint there. That's the weld. That's the weld joint.
And all the while, the old bridge is being broken up as bigger and bigger sections are cut and swung clear onto the waiting lorries, which provide a continuous convoy in order to ensure that the debris is kept on the move. With the track in position, the time has come to bring in the ballast. That's the loose stones that give the essential bounce to the track, holding it in position, providing a firm but pliable base, and allowing the rain to filter through and be drawn away from the rail area with the minimum of disturbance to the alignment of the rails themselves. The best method for a new bit of railway like this is still to make sure that the stones get to exactly the right places by putting them there by hand. Only when the handwork has been completed can this plastomatic machine come in and add the final touches by tamping in the stones which the men have put in place to form a precise shield around each sleeper. And all the time, the old bridge is fast disappearing. This last piece is the original turntable. Final manual adjustments are made to the new track. These points will eventually, like everything else, be controlled from Colchester. Now it's time to test the bridge. This is done in the time-honored way of running a heavy train across slowly and gently. In this case, 2 substantial diesels will do the job nicely. The first run reveals a rough edge on part of the track, so the grinders go in and smooth it out. Back come the test engines. Final run. All is well. The bridge is ready for its first train. The last of the old bridge is going. It took 6 months to build in 1845 and 36 hours to take it apart. The first train to cross with passengers is a DMU, from Cambridge. Those in the front seats have a grandstand view of the new Trouse Swing Bridge in action for the very first time. A great day for my fellow East Anglian train enthusiasts. As Mr. Allendon, who is now transferred from the old signal box to the new control room, looks on, the first mainline express sets out from Norwich, bound for Liverpool Street. For Mr. Allendon, it's a new world. No more battling with stiff levers, engaging harsh gears, and hoping for the best. Just a series of buttons to push, and a radio link with the shipping.
Cowbridge, this is Cowbridge Radio, over.
Thank you very much, Cowbridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Cowbridge Radio, out.
The whole operation starts up. Lights come on, the buttons are pressed, the rails lift and then disengage. The bridge prepares to receive its first customer. It's the final testing moment for everyone who's worked on the project. They know the bridge is safe. 2 heavy diesels and a couple of trains have proved that. But there is the main purpose of the whole exercise still to try out. A real ship, and a real swing, and a real passage of a vessel through that narrow gap. As the grain ship Michelle, bound for a local flour mill, approaches, the British rail crew and Mr. Allendon in the control box and the crew of the ship itself watch closely as the magic moment arrives. Clearances are noted. The performance of the main platform and the stability of the overhead is checked out. This is the moment of truth. Back in the control box at Colchester, the whole operation is monitored at a distance, and the line that was planned to go electric back in 1935 will be finally completed. Making a special visit to East Anglia was the Venice Orient Express, symbolically linking the traditions of the past with a new breed of fast electric trains.
And indeed, that was the last in this series of Bygones Specials.
Accusing me?
No, not yet.
Friday on ITV, the final episode of A Killing on the Exchange. The police net closes in.
Someone murdered your old friend Charles Makepeace, and they want to know who.
Well, you know what I thought of the man. He had the nastiest tongue of anyone I've ever known.
You're not suggesting I killed him to get his money?
Did you?
Who poisoned Charles Makepeace? The final episode of A Killing on the Exchange. Friday at 9 on ITV.
Adria and Coachman Caravans, trailer tents, frame tents. Everything but everything for campers and caravanners. Look leisurely at Fuller Leisure, Glemsford.
have silk.
Don't miss the Hereward Radio Home and Leisure Super Show at the Court Exhibition Centre, Bretton, Peterborough. This weekend, there's something for everyone.
Impressions from Impulse, the all-over perfume body spray. So irresistibly romantic, men just can't help acting on it. When a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's Impressions from Impulse.
One of the best deals on Montegos. Brookside. We care.
If an egg is all you've got, but you'd like Earth on cocotte, oi! Scream for cream. When you want to turn a spud into grub to warm the blood, oi! Scream for cream. Cream is absolutely natural, cream is absolutely pure, but you've got to get the real thing to be absolutely sure. Take a strawberry in your hand, pick a really nice one and, oi! Scream for cream, it's only natural, oi! Scream for cream, there's nothing like it, oi! Scream for cream.
On a misty day like today, it's easy to see why London used to be known as the smoke and was world famous for its fog. Well, maybe reducing lead in petrol is only a small step, but by leading the introduction of unleaded petrol, Esso is giving the motorist a choice, because nearly 40% of 1986 cars are capable of running on unleaded now, and yours could be one of them. To help you, Esso have produced a facts leaflet, a list of unleaded car models, and a station directory. So, leaded or unleaded, don't close your eyes to the choice. Wouldn't you rather be a tiger?
Planning a whole new scene, B&Q it. Great mower for your green, B&Q it. You can do it when you B&Q it. Families saving cash, B&Q it. People making a splash, B&Q it. You can do it when you B&Q it. Or a kitchen with style, B&Q it. Giving a room a smile, B&Q it. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Listen to your local favourite, Hereward Radio. #1 for hits and first with news for Peterborough, Wisbech, March, Spalding, Stamford, Huntingdon, Kings Lynn, and your town in Hereward country. Find us on 1332.
The greatest hits on Hereward Radio.
The Hereward Radio Home and Leisure Exhibition, the ideal way to plan your lifestyle, opens tomorrow and throughout the weekend at the Court Exhibition Centre in Peterborough. Hundreds of stands to see, and we're broadcasting live too.
Fresh Fields is back with us tonight at 8:30, and now it's just after 7:30, and who's the boss?